It was early spring in Ohio. The kind of cold that makes your bones ache still lingered in the air, even though the sun had started stretching its arms across the sky again. The streets of Springfield were wet from the night's rain, and the wind carried that earthy scent of thawed soil and leftover snow. Inside a modest red brick home near East Main Street, Laura stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. 271 pounds. She read the number again on the scale like it was a sentence, like it was shouting something she didn't want to hear. But it wasn't the number that hurt her the most. It was the voice of her husband, Mike, echoing in her head. "You look like a damn barn. No wonder people stare at us when we go out." He'd said it the night before, loudly, at Applebee's, in front of the waitress and their friends. Laura had smiled through it, laughed even, pretending it was just a joke, pretending like her heart hadn't just been kicked in the ribs. Mike wasn't always like that. Or maybe he was, and she just didn't want to see it. Back when they met in high school, he was charming, full of energy, and always talking about building a life filled with success and wealth. "Stick with me, babe," he used to say. "We're gonna have a life of prosperity, of real value." That word, value, had always stayed with her. But somewhere between their wedding day and now, his idea of value had shifted. It became about appearances, about money, about how other people saw them. He started making fun of her when she gained weight after their second miscarriage. She was grieving. He was distant. He'd make comments during meals, at first subtle, then cruel. "Another biscuit? Maybe you should value your health a little more. I bet you've gained more weight than my truck can carry." She cried in the shower, in the car, alone in the backyard. But she stayed. Because she believed love was about endurance, about standing by your partner, even when it broke you slowly. One Saturday in March, Laura decided to surprise Mike with breakfast. Pancakes, bacon, eggs, the whole spread. She wore the new blouse she'd bought online, sky blue, soft fabric. It still had the tag. He came down the stairs, saw her, and burst out laughing. "Jesus, Laura, that top is screaming for help." She didn't say a word, just stood there, holding the spatula, the smell of bacon filling the air, and something inside her cracked. Not a scream, not a tear, just a quiet, sharp break. The kind you don't notice until everything falls apart. She watched him eat, chew, scroll through his phone. And in that silence, Laura realized something. Love was not meant to humiliate. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she couldn't keep living like that. She needed a life that felt like hers, one where her weight didn't define her worth, one where her voice mattered more than the sound of a scale beeping. That afternoon, while Mike napped on the couch, Laura drove to the public library and checked out a book on nutrition. Not because of him, not to win him back, but for her health, for her mind, for her future, for the kind of wealth that can't be seen, emotional strength, mental peace, inner prosperity. It was the smallest beginning, but it was hers. And it was the day everything started to change. The next morning, the air in Springfield was still cold, but the sun was fighting harder now. Laura stood by the window in her living room, holding a cup of tea with both hands. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from the chill, but from everything she had decided the night before. That tiny library book on nutrition was sitting on the kitchen counter. Just a small paperback. Nothing fancy. But to Laura, it felt like a lifeline. She had read it late into the night, while Mike snored on the recliner, TV still playing some late-night show. She remembered one sentence from the first chapter so clearly, it was like it had been burned into her brain. "Your body is not your enemy. Your habits are." She had never looked at it that way. Mike shuffled into the room around 8:30, shirtless, scratching his belly like nothing in the world mattered. He didn't notice her tear-stained cheeks. He didn't even say good morning. Instead, he barked, "Ain't there any coffee? Or are you on one of those health kicks again?" Laura didn't answer. She didn't look at him. She just walked to the sink and poured out the rest of the tea. That day, after dropping off the dry cleaning and picking up a few groceries, she parked her car behind the YMCA building. She hadn't been there since high school. The same faded mural still stretched across the back wall. Kids playing soccer, families holding hands, a bright sun painted with sloppy yellow streaks. She took a deep breath and walked inside. The front desk girl was young, maybe 19, with a warm smile and a name tag that said, Riley. "Hi there, I'd like to sign up for a membership," Laura said, her voice shaking slightly. "Of course," Riley replied. "We've got some great deals this month." Laura felt out of place, surrounded by fit people in gym clothes, protein shake ads, bright lights. But she reminded herself, this wasn't about looking like them. This was about choosing herself, about her health, her prosperity, about creating a future where she had real wealth, not just in money, but in strength, in self-respect, in values. She signed the forms, paid with her own debit card, $59 for the month. That was the price of her first step toward freedom. The first workout wasn't heroic. She walked on the treadmill for 12 minutes. She couldn't jog. She was out of breath. Her thighs ached. But she did it. And when she got home, Mike didn't even ask where she had been. That night, she cooked dinner for them both. Baked salmon, steamed broccoli, brown rice. Mike looked at the plate like it had insulted him. "What the hell is this? We run out of real food?" "It's healthier," she said calmly. "I want to start making better choices. For my health." He scoffed. "Health? You think this rabbit food's gonna fix all that?" He waved his fork at her body. But this time, Laura didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She just looked at him, steady and still, and said, "It's not about fixing anything. It's about building something better. For me." Mike laughed, but there was something uneasy behind it, like he felt the ground shift just a little beneath him. The days that followed weren't easy. She hid her workouts at first. Woke up before dawn, drove to the Y, did her best. Walked, stretched, watched YouTube videos on her phone about metabolism, healthy eating, and emotional healing. Not for trends, but to understand her own body, to understand her worth. She started tracking her meals, cut back on sugar, she began sleeping better, and little by little the pounds began to shift. 10 pounds down by the end of the first month. It wasn't about the number. It was about control, about taking her life back, inch by inch. And for the first time in over a decade, Laura didn't feel invisible anymore. She felt alive. By mid-May, the air in Springfield had warmed up. The trees along the neighborhood streets were full again, casting slow-moving shadows across sidewalks. Laura had lost nearly 30 pounds by then. 31 to be exact. She didn't talk about it much. Mike hadn't even noticed. Or maybe he had, and just didn't care. Either way, she had stopped trying to impress him. What mattered now was progress. Every morning at 5:15, Laura left the house with a small gym bag and a water bottle. She parked in the same spot at the YMCA and waved to Riley at the front desk, who always gave her a quiet thumbs up. Sometimes she'd just walk the treadmill. Other times she joined the low-impact strength class. Her body still ached, but it was a different kind of pain now, the kind that came with building something, not breaking. After her workouts, she'd sit in her car for a few minutes, breathing deep, listening to the radio. She'd begun to love that part. that silence, that feeling of ownership, of earning something. One morning in June, her friend Cassie from high school called out of the blue. They hadn't talked in years. "Hey, I saw your name pop up on the YMCA bulletin board," Cassie said, laughing. "Didn't know you were out here getting strong." Laura blushed, even though no one could see her. "Yeah, just trying to take care of my health. Feels like it's time." Cassie invited her out for lunch. Not fast food, a cute little bistro downtown with outdoor seating, real silverware, and a menu that listed calories like it was something to be proud of. Laura almost didn't go, but she did. She wore jeans that used to cut into her belly. Now they hung a little loose. She pulled out a blouse she hadn't dared wear since 2003. Soft peach with buttons that finally closed. Cassie gasped when she saw her. "Girl, look at you. You're glowing." Laura smiled, shy but proud. "It's just a start." They talked for over 2 hours. About life, about heartbreak, about the weight we carry, the kind no one sees. Cassie told her about her divorce, about starting over. They laughed, they cried. It felt like real friendship. Not pity, not small talk. Real. When Laura got home that afternoon, she found Mike in the garage, tossing empty beer cans into the trash like they'd offended him. "Where you been?" he asked. "Lunch with Cassie." He gave her a look. "Since when do you have time for friends?" "Since I started making time for me." He didn't respond, just muttered something under his breath and walked back inside. Later that night, Laura sat on the edge of their bed, scrolling through her phone. A video ad popped up, a personal coach from Columbus talking about wellness, self-worth, and how weight loss was more than just food and movement. It was about mindset, about values. That word hit her like a bell again. She signed up for a virtual call. Coach's name was Darlene, and she spoke with this soft, powerful confidence that made Laura feel seen. Like really seen. Like maybe she wasn't just a tired woman trying to shrink herself. Maybe she was a woman rising into something bigger. "Your weight," Darlene said, "isn't the problem. It's the result. You don't just need change, and you need prosperity in every part of your life. Mental, emotional, financial, spiritual." Laura felt her throat tighten. It was the first time someone had said the word prosperity to her without talking about money. But still, deep down, she knew she wanted that too. Financial freedom, independence, to know her own wealth, not just in pounds lost, but in the life she was building. She started keeping a journal. Every morning after her workouts, she'd sit in the YMCA cafe, sipping coffee and writing down thoughts, goals, numbers, feelings. One day, she wrote, "I am not a project. I am a promise." By the end of July, she'd lost 50 pounds. Her skin was clearer, her energy higher, her laughter fuller. Strangers at the grocery store smiled at her. And for the first time in years, she smiled back. One Friday afternoon, she stood in front of a boutique downtown, staring at a royal blue dress in the window. It was fitted, sleeveless, bold. A dress made for someone who believed in herself. She walked in, asked for her size. The saleswoman hesitated. "I'm working on my health," Laura said gently. "Just let me try it." It fit. Tears welled up in her eyes as she turned in the mirror. She didn't look perfect. She looked powerful. And that was better than perfect. By the second week of August, the summer heat in Ohio was relentless. Sidewalks shimmered under the midday sun, and even the breeze felt like it had given up. But Laura's fire had only just begun. She had lost over 60 pounds now. 64, to be exact. And it wasn't just her body that looked different. It was the way she moved, the way she spoke. There was strength in her posture, clarity in her eyes. Her morning workouts had become sacred. She journaled every night. She stopped apologizing for existing. But not everyone liked the change. Mike had grown colder by the day. He barely looked at her now, and when he did, it was with suspicion. One night, as she packed a healthy lunch for the next day, he leaned against the fridge and said, "Who you trying to look good for, huh? Somebody at that gym?" Laura didn't even blink. "I'm looking good for me." "Right," he scoffed. "Bet all this health kick's gonna cost us more money than it's worth." That hit her harder than she expected. Not because of the insult, she was used to those, but because she realized how long she had been letting him define the value of everything in her life. For over a decade, she'd given and given, time, energy, emotional labor, without ever asking what it was worth. She had let him handle the finances, had no clue what was in their savings, if there even was any. That night, she stayed up late, opened the laptop, checked their joint bank account, and her heart sank. He'd drained almost everything. She scrolled through months of transactions. Beer, sports gear, online gambling, fast food, not a single deposit with her name on it. It wasn't just emotional abuse, it was financial control. The next day, she opened a bank account in her own name. She used her old skills, the ones she'd buried for years, to freelance online. Proofreading, data entry, small gigs that paid just enough to feel like hers. A few $100s at first, but it wasn't about the amount. It was about independence, about dignity. She researched credit, investments, passive income. Started watching YouTube channels about financial freedom, about wealth building for women. Not because she wanted luxury, but because she deserved to understand prosperity. She deserved to live by her own values. By the end of August, she had made her first $1,000. Quietly, privately. She didn't tell Mike. Instead, she told Darlene, her coach. And Darlene said something that stuck to Laura's ribs like a warm meal. "You are allowed to outgrow people who keep you small." Meanwhile, the weight kept dropping. By September, Laura had lost 83 pounds. Her face looked younger. Her back didn't ache when she climbed the stairs. She walked taller. She breathed deeper. And strangers began noticing her in ways that made Mike uncomfortable. One night at the grocery store, a man near the produce section smiled at her and said, "Excuse me, I just wanted to say, you've got a beautiful smile." Laura was stunned, flattered, a little flustered. Mike, who had walked up just in time to hear it, barked, "She's married." The man nodded respectfully and walked away. On the ride home, Mike didn't speak, not until they pulled into the driveway. "You embarrass me," he said. Laura stared out the windshield. "No, Mike, you embarrass yourself." That night, she slept in the guest room, and for the first time in years, she slept peacefully. By the third week of September, the leaves had started to turn. Ohio began to breathe again, cooler air, golden light. Laura's closet was full of clothes she actually liked. She donated the rest, cut her hair, got a new pair of glasses. She had also gained something else, options. She was building real freedom, physically, emotionally, and financially. Every pound lost was proof. Every dollar earned was power. Every mile walked, every meal cooked, every page of her journal. It all added up to a life where she was in charge. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was preparing for a future without Mike, preparing to live fully, to celebrate, to thrive. By early October, the trees in Springfield had caught fire with color. Reds, oranges, deep golds. It looked like the whole town was exhaling. Laura stood on her front porch one Saturday morning, a warm mug in her hands, and watched a leaf drift down slow and quiet to the ground. 102 pounds gone. She hadn't told Mike. She didn't have to. He knew, and it terrified him. The more she shrank, the more his voice rose. The insults grew sharper, the silences colder. But Laura didn't shrink emotionally. She expanded. She took up space in ways he couldn't understand. Her presence, her peace, her power, it filled every room now. One evening, Mike found her on the back deck reading a book on financial literacy. "You think reading's gonna make you rich now?" he sneered. She looked up slowly, calm, solid. "No," she said, "but understanding money will keep me from ever depending on a man like you again." That was the night he slapped the book out of her hands. And that was the night she packed a suitcase. No shouting, no chaos. She moved into Cassie's spare room the next morning. The quiet was deafening at first, but then it felt like safety. Peace. Her heart stopped racing every time a door opened. Her shoulders dropped. Her mind slowed down. Laura hired a lawyer using the money she'd been saving for months. By October 26th, the papers were filed. She didn't cry when she left. Not once. Because she hadn't lost anything. She had reclaimed everything: her body, her voice, her dignity, her values. Cassie celebrated with her. "You're free now, girl," she said, holding up 2 wine glasses. "Not just free," Laura smiled. "I'm finally living." She started working full-time with a remote company that offered flexible hours and health benefits. She took online courses, started building a brand, a blog, a community of women going through the same hell she'd walked through. She called it Built from Broken. She shared everything, not just the weight loss, but the emotional scars, the financial struggle, the shame, and the prosperity that bloomed when she chose herself over fear. Her following grew fast. So did her strength. By December 1st, she had lost 120 pounds total. Her doctor said her blood pressure was the best it had been in years. She could jog for 30 minutes without stopping. She slept like a child. She laughed from her belly. One evening, sitting by the fireplace with Cassie, she said, "I used to think my worth was measured in pounds. Now I know it's measured in peace." Cassie nodded. "And in dollars," she joked. "Don't forget that." Laura chuckled. "And dollars, definitely dollars." The 2 women clinked glasses again, not out of celebration, but out of knowing, of surviving, of arriving at a life that once seemed impossible. That same week, she got a message from Darlene, her coach. "Time to celebrate," it said. "How about something big?" Laura replied with a smile. "How big?" The next message had a photo attached, a luxury yacht, sparkling under the Florida sun. She stared at it for a long time. Then she typed, "Let's make it happen." Mike, meanwhile, was drowning in bills. He had lost his job in mid-November, got caught lying about performance metrics, and was let go without severance. He drank more, slept less. His friends had drifted off. Even his mother stopped answering his calls. And deep down, where the truth lived, he knew why. He had destroyed the one person who ever truly loved him. Not with fists, but with shame. With control. With cruelty disguised as jokes. One night, scrolling Facebook in the dark, he saw a photo that nearly made him drop his phone. Laura, in a black cocktail dress, smiling, lean, radiant, standing next to Cassie and 2 other women. The caption read, "130 pounds gone, health restored, values reclaimed, yacht party incoming, I survived, and I built my own damn empire." Mike stared at the screen like it had slapped him across the face. He read it again, and again. And he knew. He wasn't invited, not to the party, not to her new life, not anymore. It was Saturday, January 20th, 2008. The wind in Springfield bit through coats and scarves, but Laura stood outside the courthouse wrapped in confidence instead of wool. The divorce was finalized at exactly 9:34 that morning. She stepped down the stone steps slowly, her heels clicking against concrete like punctuation marks. Cassie met her at the bottom, coffee in hand. "It's done," she said, grinning. Laura nodded. "Feels like I just set fire to 10 years of pain." "No," Cassie said. "You just cashed out your losses and made room for prosperity." They laughed, loud and unbothered, and for the first time in her adult life, Laura felt completely hers. The next day, she booked the yacht. 3 weeks, Miami, ocean breeze, music, people who had walked with her through the ashes. She didn't just want a celebration, she needed a resurrection. Over the next 14 days, she worked harder than ever, organizing flights, sending invites, finalizing every detail from the guest list to the playlist, all funded by her own money, no borrowed credit, no husband's approval, just the reward of months of sweat, sacrifice, and soul work. Mike got wind of it through a mutual friend. He called her phone 3 times that night. She didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "You think you're better than me now? Living fancy with your little yacht show? You think this is real life, Laura? You ain't nobody." She deleted the message. 2 days later, he showed up at Cassie's place, drunk, standing on the sidewalk yelling, "You owe me! You took everything!" Laura opened the door, calm as ever. "I took nothing," she said. "You gave it all away the moment you chose control over kindness. You built your own emptiness." He lunged forward, but Cassie was already calling the cops. He stumbled back, furious. "You're not special. You were just fat and lucky." Laura didn't flinch. "No, Mike. I was fat and trapped. Now I'm free, and I'm rich in ways you'll never understand." She shut the door without another word. The cops found him sitting on the curb 10 minutes later. By the time the plane touched down in Miami on Friday, February 2nd, the air smelled like citrus and salt. Laura stepped out in a white linen dress, her hair up, her skin sun-kissed, 130 pounds lighter. But it wasn't about that anymore. It was about what she gained. Health, peace, wealth of spirit and truth. A circle of women who lifted her higher. A future paved with real values, not lies and fear. The yacht was stunning. White with gold trim, 3 decks, catered food, live band, champagne flowing. Cassie toasted with her first, lifting her glass high. To every woman who's ever been told she's too much, too loud, too heavy, too broken, this is for you. Cheers followed. Laughter echoed across the bay. Laura walked to the edge of the boat as the sun dipped low, casting fire across the ocean. She closed her eyes and breathed it in. She had made it out, from shame, from silence, from Springfield, Ohio, where a girl who once believed she was worthless found out that her value was never tied to a scale or a man's approval. And just as she opened her eyes, her phone buzzed. Another message from Mike. "I miss you. Please, just one conversation." She stared at it for a long second. Then she smiled, tapped delete, and dropped her phone into her purse. Her past would not sail with her. Saturday, February 3rd, 2008. The Miami sky was painted in shades of peach and lavender as the yacht pushed gently into the open water. The marina behind them faded slowly, replaced by deep blue waves and the soft rhythm of freedom. Laura stood on the upper deck, barefoot, a champagne flute in one hand and her heart wide open in her chest. She wore a gold dress that clung to her body like it had been waiting for her all these years. She was 130 pounds lighter, but more than that, she was rich in health, in clarity, in dignity. Her phone was on silent. The music played smooth and easy as the sun kissed the waves. Guests mingled across the decks, glasses clinking, voices rising in laughter. Cassie had brought out a small banner that read, "She didn't just lose weight, she found her worth." Laura smiled when she saw it. "A little dramatic," she teased. Cassie laughed. "So are yacht parties. Own it." Laura did. She walked through her guests with ease, hugging old friends, introducing new ones, soaking in every second of the life she had built. There were no pitying glances, no shame, only admiration, connection, and respect, not just for the pounds lost, but for the values gained. Darlene was there too, in a bold red jumpsuit and gold hoops. "You really did it," she said, hugging Laura tight. "No," Laura whispered back. "We did it." And then, like something out of a bad movie, it happened. A voice. From the dock. "Laura!" She turned slowly. It was Mike, standing at the edge of the marina in a wrinkled shirt, a cheap bouquet in one hand, desperation dripping from every inch of him. Cassie muttered, "Oh, hell no." Laura stepped to the edge of the yacht, still calm. He called again. "Please, just talk to me. I need to explain." She looked down at him. Not with hate, not even anger, just pity. "You don't get to show up here," she said, loud enough for everyone on the boat to hear. "Not now, not after everything." "I'm sorry," he shouted. "I messed up, I know that. But you were my wife." "No, Mike, I was your scapegoat, your emotional punching bag, your control mechanism." He tried to climb over the dock rail, and 2 marina staff members rushed in, pulling him back. The captain walked over. "Ma'am, do you want him removed from the dock?" "Yes," she said softly. "This party isn't for people who broke me. It's for the ones who helped me rebuild." Mike yelled something else, something bitter, but his voice was lost beneath the music, the breeze, and the 100 small voices of celebration surrounding her. She turned her back to him, walked away. And he disappeared from her life just like that, small, angry, forgotten. Later that evening, as the sun disappeared and stars dusted the sky, Laura stood alone at the stern of the yacht, watching the water split gently beneath them. Cassie joined her with 2 glasses of wine. "Do you feel it?" she asked. Laura looked at her. "Feel what?" "The shift, like your old life finally let go." Laura took a deep breath. "Yeah," she said. "It's not even about revenge. It's about reclaiming my space, my voice, my prosperity." They clinked glasses again. For her, it had never been about getting back at him. It was about rising so high he couldn't reach her even if he tried. And that was the sweetest kind of wealth. Sunday, February 4th, 2008. The morning after the yacht party, the air in Miami felt like silk. Warm, still, full of promise. The harbor shimmered under the soft light, and Laura sat alone on the deck with a mug of black coffee, legs tucked under her, watching the sun rise. It wasn't just the close of a celebration. It was the beginning of everything new. She hadn't slept much, not from nerves, but from peace. The kind of peace you only feel when your past has been faced and forgiven. Not forgotten, just released. Cassie walked up quietly and handed her a small envelope. "You earned this." Laura raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "Open it." Inside was a check, $5,000, from the women's wellness brand that had been following her journey on her blog. "They want to sponsor your next retreat," Cassie said, "and your blog just passed 10,000 subscribers. You're doing it, Laura." Laura held the check for a moment, speechless. She had never touched that kind of money in her own name before, not without Mike's shadow hovering over her shoulder. And now, here it was, clean, honest, hers. "It's not even about the dollars," Laura whispered. "It's about what they mean." Cassie smiled. "They mean wealth. They mean freedom. They mean value." And for once, Laura didn't argue. She believed it. By noon, she was back at the hotel suite, suitcase open, folding her dress from the night before. She paused, holding the fabric close to her chest, remembering everything it took to fit into it. The pain, the choices, the mornings she didn't think she'd make it, the tears cried behind locked bathroom doors. It wasn't just a dress. It was her armor, her badge, her proof. The mirror on the wall caught her reflection, shoulders back, skin glowing, eyes alive, 130 pounds gone. But more than that, the weight of shame, of silence, of fear, that had been lifted too. She picked up her phone and opened the camera. "Hi," she said, recording a video. "My name's Laura. I'm from Springfield, Ohio. I was once 271 pounds, married to a man who made me feel like I didn't matter. But today, I am free. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm surrounded by people who lift me up, not tear me down." She paused, smiling softly. "I want to say this to every woman who's ever been called too big, too loud, too emotional, too much. You are not too anything. You are exactly who you were meant to be. You are worthy, you are valuable, and if you feel like you're drowning, just know. There's another side to this. There is light, there is prosperity, and you are allowed to claim it." She ended the recording, uploaded it to her blog, and hit publish. Within an hour, the video had over 6,000 views. Comments poured in. Women from Texas to Maine, from California to Georgia, all sharing pieces of their own pain, their own weight, their own silent wars. And Laura read every single word. That night, as she flew back to Ohio, she looked out the plane window and whispered to herself, "You did it." Springfield welcomed her with snow. The cold didn't bother her anymore. She had warmth inside her now. By March, she had launched her coaching program. By April, she was featured in a national women's magazine. By May, she bought her first home in her name alone. And by June, she stood in front of 200 women at a conference, microphone in hand, voice steady. "You don't have to stay small to be safe," she said. "You don't have to disappear to be accepted. You can grow. You can rise. You can build a life of wealth, of health, of freedom, brick by brick, pound by pound, breath by breath." The room gave her a standing ovation, not for being thin, not for being pretty, but for being real. And as she looked out over the crowd, women crying, women clapping, women believing again, she knew. She wasn't just telling her story anymore. She was helping others rewrite theirs. And you? Have you ever gone through something like this? Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your story.